with John Impemba and James Grande.
What is going on, FANation? John Impemba here with James Grande. Welcome into the Fantasy Alarm NBA DFS Playbook live show, where today has been an absolute disaster. We talked about it on the preview show, how many teams were on back-to-backs, and then the injuries that we were waiting on, and some of these, everybody's out. Like, everybody is. Every team has decided to take today off. We're late, a few minutes late here, because right as we went to go live, Karl-Anthony Towns ended up getting ruled out tonight for the New York Knicks. So just throwing off everything, not to mention that you're dealing with the 76ers basically running back their team potentially from last night. Atlanta ruled out their entire team essentially from last night or as well. I mean, Grande, you did the playbook. I don't know how you managed to do the playbook today with the number of changes and updates and projection updates that had to be done throughout the day to sort of just get us ready for this slate. If you go to the fantasyalarm.com NBA DFS playbook today, I mean, I'll just share it. I mean, look how long this injury list is.
I don't even have Towns, and I haven't even fully. Oh no, I did. Did I update Towns there? Yeah.
I don't see Towns. If Towns is in there, he's in there somewhere.
He's at the top.
Oh, very top.
I still have him listed questionable. I haven't even fully. Now it's updated. I mean, dude, it's just
an insane list. I mean, we'll read it out, right? Obviously, AD, LeBron probable. Towns now out and beat out. Maxey, we'll see, right?
Still questionable. Yep.
Questionable. Bam, questionable. Butler out. Trae Young out. Jalen Johnson out. Jalen Brunson now maybe one of the best players in the slate. Paul George, questionable. Laurie, Sexton, and Collins, they were unfortunate enough to be ruled out the other day. Hickley's out. Claxton's questionable. DeAndre Hunter gets ruled out. Io expected to play. Lively's out. Goga's out. Sohan's out. Nick Richards just got traded, so he's out for Charlotte.
Yep.
Will Ware's probable. TJD is questionable. Draymond Green questionable. Some big names obviously being in. Keontae George returning from injury. Middleton returning from injury. Caleb Martin, Andre Drummond are both out. So again, Philadelphia continues to be shorthanded. DFS out for Brooklyn. Irving downgraded to
DFS out for the Lakers.
Yeah, sorry, for the Lakers, not for Brooklyn. For Lakers. Irving doubtful after last night. The game report was we're like planning on playing or something.
Yeah, he's gonna play. He's gonna play.
Yeah. Rija Shea out. Cam J out. I mean, like, there's just a ridiculous amount of plays here.
Zion out.
Yeah, Zion, as we expected, would probably be out on the back-to-back. DeJounte, probable. But, we'll see. Back-to-back there. So, again, just an enormous amount of injury news, that we're looking at here today. I was in some single entry contests, and Grande is like, "What are you doing? You can't play single entry today because there's just too many. You want exposure. You want to spread your exposure around." And I agreed with that. And now I'm in some entry tournament.
Now we're MMA. Now we're MMAing. We went from single.
Yeah, now we're MMEing today, which we MME'd last night too, and that actually turned out pretty okay with the way that was. Shout out to Justin Carlucci in his playbook. Getting us all hopefully in the money last night. Justin's in the chat saying hello, good luck to all of you. Thanks for the content. Bauer's always in the chat. Albert and Josh says free Nick Richards. Yeah, listen, Nick Richards
been free.
Should be starting for them, right? Like, and that just, if nothing else, solidifies the Nurkic
is gone. Yeah,
being waived or traded at some point, right? Like,
yeah, I'd assume he's the trade is the first piece, but who knows what the value even could be at this point.
Maybe he finds his way into Orlando, just.
I mean, they do need active bodies, but I don't know if,
we'll see what happens there.
We'll see.
All right. Let's get into it here. Des in the chat says, blessing to you guys. Blessing to you as well, sir. Top overall priced players, Jokic, Giannis, Wemby, Tatum, and Ball are your 10K and over group. As you mentioned, there's a lot of guys already ruled out. LaMelo's at 10K. We'll see about Maxey at 94. And then Barnes. I mean, you were all in on LaMelo. He's the cover of your playbook today. Can't imagine anything has changed given all the news. Or are you now on Jalen Brunson at $8,400?
Yeah, obviously that is something that has drastically shifted. Now, I don't think it necessarily, my opinion on LaMelo hasn't changed. I think that he's an elite play. You're talking about a guy that all we've ever wanted from LaMelo Ball was like the minutes and the volume, and we're getting both of them all at once. I mean, 25 shots, 17 threes, 40 minutes last game. Sold. I'm in. That's all I need to see. I'm in. 40 minutes, max shots, max usage, max threes. Peripheral stats are great because he can do that. And he gets a team in Utah that is terrible defensively, 29th in defensive rating. So it's a little bit of a pace-up spot. Absolutely love LaMelo. I venture to guess, like you just said, LaMelo is getting, without the update that's to follow.
Yeah.
Like without what's happened, I'd assume his ownership would tank and Brunson's would skyrocket, would be my guess. And now there's two sides to that discussion. Is Jalen Brunson, and if Paul George and Tyrese Maxey are ruled out, I understand the 76ers were scrappy last night.
Yeah.
Are the Knicks scrappy? Do they blow the Philly second unit and third unit out? Second leg of a back-to-back for them. Obviously, we saw some good lineups with SGA last night because he was 2% rostered.
Yeah.
So it leads you to that discussion.
Dude, the 100K winner didn't have Giannis or Jokic in the lineup. It was just straight up fair and balance with the SGA build, and hit the right Philly value in that, and you won $100,000.
Well, and the difference between SGA and Brunson is one guy plays for a guy that doesn't sit his players no matter what, and Brunson's 8,400, SGA was 10,500. So there's a significant difference. If that argument even creeps into your mind, it's kind of an irrelevant one. So I love LaMelo Ball. Absolutely love LaMelo Ball. But I'm also if you do need salary, and I'm not sure you will very often because there's a lot of value plays on the slate, I would be perfectly fine pivoting to Brunson. But those two, far and away, the best plays 8K and up. I mean, Ja's great in tournaments. Obviously, in every cash game and every single entry and a lot of tournaments, people are going to just play Brunson over Ja. And I get it. But Ja's in a game with a 239 point total in an up-tempo game. So, I also would understand pivoting to Ja. But it's hard to get away from LaMelo or Brunson for me above.
Yeah. I mean, when we did the preview show this morning, we were like, man, 8,500 John Moran. How do you not just click that button and go forward with it and include it? And now you're running out of guard spots to play.
Yeah.
You're almost, right?
Yeah.
And it's too bad because it does feel like a pretty good spot for him at $8,500, but it also kind of eliminates some of the rest of the guys in this range. We had talked about maybe Curry, you have Lillard, DeJounte Murray against Dallas. No, you're just gonna build your pool around Brunson and Ball, and maybe you sprinkle some Morant, who we still really like.
Yes.
In that group. What if Maxey plays tonight?
He's interesting. He's interesting. I mean,
right?
big numbers, and another player that we know is going to play 40 minutes. And if that game's going to stay competitive, Tyrese Maxey and Paul George are at the forefront, right? I mean, that's just what it's going to be. No Embiid again, no Drummond, no Caleb Martin, no Jared McCain. I mean, they're missing a lot of key pieces. So, yeah, I mean, I think Maxey's in play. I prioritize probably the Brunson savings over him, but he would he would go ahead of Morant in terms of 8K and up point guards for me. So there's the clear top three in no order would be Brunson, Maxey, LaMelo for me.
Good. Work our way down the list here. I mean, does Daniels become a must play for you? I mean, Chicago is still an elite matchup for guards and just opposing teams in general. And now you're taking every shot taker off the floor essentially for Atlanta, and you're letting Daniels run the show with Vic Krejci and Garrison Matthews and crew. Like, is this not a spot where Daniels might take a season high in shot attempts?
I'm not saying he won't. I'm also not saying he will, because he just is like, he just isn't that profile, right? He hasn't been that profile. I'm not saying he won't, because, you know, they're just what they are in terms of like shorthandedness. You know, to that point, John, you and I have talked about this specific game a lot. When they were really, really shorthanded against Boston in that in-season tournament game, he took 21 shots. He isn't a very like overly efficient guy. He is definitely not good from three. That is still a big work in progress. He's not good from the foul line. That's a big work in progress.
Yeah, the free throw attempts for guards always blow my mind. Like Rajon Rondo couldn't shoot above 60% from three, from the free throw line, rather. Like,
I mean, like, he's good at attacking the rim, and he's good at in transition, because he's always in transition getting steals, right? He's always in the open court, just like because his hands are so good. It's almost like the Philly stuff for me last night, where there was Oubre and Yabusele that were more expensive than everyone else.
Yeah.
And I didn't really give them much thought. And I'm not saying I'm not giving Daniels thought. You can get to him if you want. He could be great. I'm just, you know, I almost just would rather play all the other Atlanta cheapness. Like, because at the end of the day, if he can't, he's going to be defending LaVine. That's his first priority.
Yeah.
If Zach LaVine is giving him 30, I think Dyson Daniels is going to have a hard time offensively, because he's going to be stressed out all night on the other end of the floor. So like, he's just not like, as much as I like him and I think he's awesome and first team defense, second team, like whatever, all defensive first teamer this year. I don't know if I'm going to pay $7,100 for him. I'd rather just play most of Atlanta that are just like,
and that's the other thing, is we're not getting any sort of discount on Daniels, because he's been priced up now for about a week. You know, if he was $6K, we'd probably give him way more of a look than at $7,100 here. So, all right, work our way down. I liked Cole Anthony last night at $6,200. I liked Chris Paul at $6,100. Do you find yourself getting any exposure? Keontae George, as we expected, is in $5,500 for him. Like, do we go to any of these plays, or are you just jumping down to the value tier?
Yeah, I mean, Keontae George is getting a lot of ownership, a lot. And I think like what it boils down to, and I don't think this is information we're going to get to, because we just never hear from Will Hardy on this stuff. I would love to know if there's any type of limitation with a heel injury. Like, what has Keontae George been able to do for conditioning? Because if you're getting 36 minutes like you played against the Knicks, then I'm with the field. I'm probably higher than the field's like 30% that Keontae George is being rostered. But if there's any limitations, then I just don't want to. I'm not like totally sold. So I like Keontae George. I'd probably be lower than the field right now. They're about 30% rostered. I'd probably be a little lower than that. I think Cole Anthony's great in tournaments. I think Chris Paul is great in tournaments in terms of, you know, just what that game environment entails. George is far and away the most popular of the three, though.
Sure. Work our way down and get into the value. Where are you looking to go?
I mean, Stephon Castle, Vic Krejci, those are the first two names that, you know, obviously stand out. Castle, coming off the game where he starts again with Sohan's out again tonight. I even wrote in the playbook, like, the likelihood of him going for 23 actual on that efficiency is unlikely, but he's done it a couple times this year where he's basically given you that. I mean, he has given you 23 4 times and 22 twice. So, like, there is a scoring ceiling, really fast tempo game, a lot of implied points. So I like Stephon Castle, 4K, and obviously Krejci is going to be where everyone goes. He played 35 minutes last night in the starting lineup. That was with Trae Young, looked great. He's very crafty. I don't want to like put that out there. Like the white guy in the NBA is crafty and whatnot.
Crafty,
But
Crafty,
when you watch him play, he's just like, there's nothing that like pops, but he's just super. He just always gets to his spots offensively. He's also making an elite amount of threes. I mean, 3+ threes in 5 straight games. The peripheral stats have been really good. So it's really Krejci for me. And, that's not like a secret. He's 25% rostered. He's going to be popular. Whether he starts at point guard or the 2, I guess remains to be seen. Because I do think there is an outside chance that Atlanta starts like Keaton Wallace tonight, John, at 3K. We saw Keaton Wallace start earlier this year. He played 32 minutes. That was in the Boston game that they outright won, that he started. They have 10 per Brad Rowland of the Locked On Podcast Network. I posted it in our Discord, which all you viewers need to get in for the updates. But they have 10 available. And they could call up Mohamed Gaye, but it's not a for certain thing. They could potentially start Keaton Wallace tonight. Like, I'm not saying it's going to happen, and I'm not even saying that would be like a guarantee for 30 minutes. But if you were to start at 3K, I think there would have to be some consideration just given. I mean, this is Bogdanovic. Bogdan Bogdanovic, who we'll talk about. This is his first back-to-back of the year. Hasn't played a back-to-back. They obviously ruled out Trey. They have no Kobe Buffkin. So, like, a lot of their guards are, kind of either out or playing a first back-to-back. So it's just, if we see Keaton Wallace in the starting lineup, I don't think he starts. I don't think they move Daniels to the 3, but they could. He's 6'5". He's going to guard Levine anyway. Bulls play 2 guards, right? So we'll see what they do. But Keaton Wallace at 3K. And then obviously, like, we're not going to talk about the Philly value until we need to, because
we just got the update there that the 76ers are pretty hopeful that Maxey and George will play.
That is hilarious. That is a hilarious quote.
I'm not paraphrasing or making that up. The quote is pretty hopeful, according to Nick Nurse, that Maxey and George will play tonight. That is. I think we too are pretty hopeful that Maxey and George will play tonight.
I want them to play because I really just don't want to do the whole song and dance again.
I mean, we just go back to Mr. Jeff.
I don't want to talk about it. We're pretty hopeful. We're moving on. We're not talking about it.
Well, we have a family member maybe tuning in.
That's true.
Cousin of Jeff Dowden tunes into the show.
Yeah, Jeff Dowden's the only one we need to talk about, just because his family's in the chat. Salute to Jeff Dowden. He's great.
Yeah, Jeff Dowden, big our guy Carlucci last night. You were in the Discord. He put out there. He's like, I'm pivoting to Dowden and Edwards.
Yeah,
and he was dead on right there, right under 10% both those plays, and they both smashed last night. A reason to sign up for the 7-day free trial. You get in the Discord and you get those little pieces of insight from us here at Fantasy Alarm, and hopefully you guys made those pivots like we did. I still had some Reggie Jackson, but I switched to Edwards. Wish I had Dowden over Jackson. I would be making some real money last night. All right, shooting guard position. We had a question on Ant Edwards. He is $9,200 against Golden State. Levine is $86. Paul George, 81. Maybe pretty hopeful that he's playing tonight.
Very hopeful.
Do you play any of those over an Emma Thompson or Trey Murphy tonight?
I'm definitely good with Ant. Definitely good with Ant. I wrote this in the playbook. Over the last 15 games, Golden State ranks 25th in defensive rating. They're 5-10 over that span. 25th in defensive rating. You're talking about them, the Golden State Warriors and Steph Curry's team being on par with like the Raptors and the Jazz and like the worst teams in the NBA, right? So Ant has scored 30 plus actual in 4 of his last 6. Twice he's gone for 40 plus. I hate the way you looked at your phone. Is there?
Oh, because they're also pretty hopeful that Joel Embiid will play Friday or Saturday. So
Okay, great. I'm glad they're pretty hopeful. So I would definitely get to Ant in tournaments. I must say, for two guys in Houston and Trey Murphy, for how good they have been, not a single person is playing any of these players.
I know.
And if that, because again, you're thinking about okay, there's so much value. I can just do what I did last night, right? Play Jokic, play Giannis,
but then what won, right? What ended up winning?
Correct. And that does not mean that won't win tonight. Giannis and Jokic go for 80 tonight, and you need to have them, right? That wins. But MME, John, having exposures to both sides. If I'm getting a low Amen Thompson, every time he's played 40 minutes, he's giving you 50 fantasy points.
Yeah.
Jalen Green hasn't missed a shot in 2 weeks. Not one. I don't think he's missed one singular shot. And even if I look at it, it doesn't look. He hasn't missed.
50% is basically 100% in the NBA. So
on that volume, especially we're getting 20 plus shots a night from Jalen Green at that volume. It's just Trey Murphy, 30 bombs in back-to-back games. One of them being against Boston on the road in Boston, Boston, first game off a sprained ankle. Dude, he went for 32. He was 2 for 13 from three-point territory. We're talking about a tier of guys that nobody's playing. They all have 50 plus in their bag. Murphy's playing without Zion, Ingram, Herb Jones tonight. He's going to play 40 minutes. So, yeah, I mean, I think that tier sub 10% is incredibly appealing, and I will have plenty of exposure there if nobody else. I will be the brave soul to play that tier if nobody else will.
No, I agree. I think there's obviously some elite upside at all three of those plays. Not even just based on we're not even really just talking about due to recent production, but we've seen these guys have these runs in them many times, in the past. We've been touting these guys for a while now. Murphy, especially Jalen Green, we talked a lot about how he finished last year, just being an automatic bucket for them. And Emma Thompson going back to last year, whenever he got extended run, was always really good. So I'm with you here. I think all three of those guys in the mid-tier are great. We're fortunate that two of them have the GOAT eligibility of guard forward, so you can slot them in 6 different spots into your lineup tonight. You have all that going for you. You work your way down. Again, I still think Devin Vassell is in a really good spot at $6K.
Yep.
Nice price tag for him there. If there's no Irving, the Dallas plays are going to be at least somewhat appealing given their matchup against the Pelicans, whether it's Clay or Grimes tonight. What are your thoughts as you kind of work your way down?
Yeah, it's Devin Vassell for me here for sure. 6K.
Another guy that went for 40, Yeah,
another guy who goes for 40, super safe. The price is going down for whatever reason. The minutes are elite. He lost 2 to 3 minutes in that Lakers game due to the blowout at the end. So would have been another 36 minutes for Vassell. So that would also be the guy that I gravitate to. We talked Cole Anthony. You could play here. Clay on a back-to-back. I mean, it's a really good spot if you wanted to go there. Quentin Grimes, same thing. Really good spot if you want to go to either of those guys. They're fine. But I think the clear and away target is Vassell, because then you get into the 4K tier, and I'm not saying this for Bogdan Bogdanovic because he let us down yesterday. I'm not.
Sure.
I'm not. But I think there is something to be said about him playing his first back-to-back on the year. Right? He got hurt after the first game and has basically been listed on the injury report every slate since until today. Right? Why is he not listed on his first back-to-back that he's played? He has been listed on the injury report every game. Every game he's been on their injury report. And suddenly there's a back-to-back.
He's just ready to go. He's
just good. He's just good. Second leg of back-to-back. He's 3 for 13. I'm ready to go back out after it. And again,
if he starts tonight, you have to go back to the well, though, don't you?
Yes. I'm not saying that I'm not playing him, but I'm like, if I'm multi-entering, I think there's a case to be playing a lot of the other Atlanta stuff. They have 10 guys. It's not like they're like this team that only has 8, right? Like last night, Philly randomly had Pete Nance. That was the 9th guy. He thought there was
he played.
And he played. So like Atlanta has 10. They called all these guys up from the G League. I don't know. We'll get the 5:30 injury report. I don't know if Gaye has been called up yet for Atlanta. Sure. He is still questionable. So like they called up Plowden. They called up Wallace. I think Bogdanovich is fine. He's in the playbook. He's going to be in the core play section. I'm just, again, like I'm more confident in Krejci minutes. Personally,
so like I don't even really disagree with you, but I would say that if you gave me that list of players and said who's leading Atlanta in scoring tonight, I would say Bogey.
Vic Krejci.
I would say Bogey. I think Bogey is the best pure offensive player among their active players.
He is. I mean, yes, because I mean. All their good ones are out.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
all the good ones are out.
Well, yeah, but that's what I'm saying. If you looked at their list of active players tonight, you said who's leading their team in scoring tonight?
David Roddy.
It would be Bogdanovich.
Dominic Barlow.
Maybe we get the double big lineup tonight, and they play only at power forward. You know, like
I was thinking the same thing. I think I do think like again, I'm not saying Bogdanovich is a bad play. I just find it weird that he's listed every slate as questionable.
He's capped out at 31 minutes this year.
Dude, he's listed questionable every slate except his first back-to-back. It's just so weird. It's just so weird to me.
Maybe he's feeling good. All right, Oral, where else are you looking to go here at shooting guard?
We talked Castle. We talked Krejci. Garrison Matthews, obviously, $3,300 is one of the guys that, you know, when he makes shots, there's just a ceiling. He is a really good three-point shooter, 43%. I believe Garrison Matthews, Sean, started his collegiate career Division III, sure. Which I think is insane. That he's a 43% three-point shooter and played D3 college, right? Like that's kind of an insane road to the NBA. I mean, that is like absolutely insane. So Matthews is there, and I'll just throw this out there I'm going to throw it out there, and then I'm going to leave it alone. Look out for the Pelicans starting lineup. And if Jordan Hawkins is in there, that would raise an eyebrow.
Sure.
Just an eyebrow. An eyebrow would go up if Jordan Hawkins was in the starting lineup at mid-salary.
The D3 thing sparked a small memory plug that Duncan Robinson also started his college career at a D3 school, and then transferred to Michigan. So it worked out well for him.
Worked out well.
He, ended up going undrafted and then got paid to play inconsistent minutes.
And
Matthews
podcast.
is fine there. Anything else that you got?
I did want to just comment on this. I was waiting for this news, and it's the worst news, that Jericho Sims is now probable. I was really hoping that would.
You think you just want to rule him out?
Well, I just didn't want to deal with that again. Because they started him, if you remember the last time, he played like 30 minutes. Now, I'm not saying Jericho Sims is like, I just wanted Precious. That's all I want.
Sure.
So,
small forward. Where you can spend up for. You have Tatum, Barnes, Levine, Paul George, maybe. RJ Barrett's in this range. Hopefully. But also are the guys that we kind of talked about already. Amin Thompson, dual positional eligibility. Murphy, dual positional eligibility. Vassell, dual positional eligibility. And then Jacob in here, Powers. Josh Hart season. Josh Hart. No Towns. Josh Hart.
Very good at basketball.
$7,700.
Yeah. I mean, look, the Knicks there's not a lot of Knicks that get big increase in anything when Towns off the floor. Josh Hart is still consistently over a fantasy point per minute. Jalen Brunson has a 35% usage rate. That is where everything goes through. Jalen Brunson. But like Hart's 16%, his usage rate doesn't really move. Mikal Bridges 22, OG 21.5. So like, yeah, I mean, Josh Hart is a guy that we play with Karl-Anthony Towns. My opinion like hasn't necessarily like changed all that much. The game that they played against the Magic without Towns, Hart played 41 minutes, had 15, 14, 2, 2, and 1. Another day at the office for Josh Hart, 15, 14, 2, 1, and 1, right? I mean, it's a Josh Hart. He took 9 shots, like no Towns. He is just going to be that player.
Yeah.
Whoever's in the lineup, like it could be Hart, Jericho Sims, Cameron Payne, Huck Purdy, and Matt, and like Landry Shamet, and Josh Hart would probably take 12 shots in that lineup. So yeah, I like
remember
Josh
we were
Hart.
terrified because Hart himself said like I don't think I'm going to shoot this year. Like we have to...
And he like his volume hasn't. He's just so efficient at the rim, so good at the rim, and he's obviously been good from 3 too.
Yep. Does no Towns impact any of the other Knicks for you outside of Hart and Brunson? Do you like OG or Bridges any better?
I like their prices. I think Bridges coming off a pretty good game his last time out. He has the slightly higher usage rate. He had the big game the last time Towns was out, 24, 5, and 2. Not saying that is like, always the case, but he played 42 minutes and took 20 shots. The only second to Jalen Brunson. So I would probably lean Bridges, but I do like both of their price points are obviously very appealing.
Yeah, it's funny how they go through runs. Like we had a stretch where OG was like you had to play the guy or you were like losing. And now he's back to like barely scoring and not giving you any stats, but maybe that changes. Anthony with a couple of questions. Do we trust Paul George tonight? Then wants to know our thoughts on Murphy, which we've kind of discussed. And then Coach Chris wants to know Josh Hart or Amen Thompson. So again, sort of reclarifying, this is like our favorite tier of the slate. From Thompson, Hart, Murphy, Vassell, and Jalen Green, which is shooting guard only. Like you can play all 4 of them pretty confidently. If I had to pick one of Hart or Thompson, I think I'd go Thompson. But what do you think?
I would also go Amen Thompson.
Yeah, that's where I would go. And do I think Murphy can go off again? I do.
Yeah, and I also like Paul George if he plays. Yeah.
You've been dead on with Paul George analysis without Embiid this year in the last 2 games against the Pelicans and Magic. Kind of shown that out to be true.
Well, did you hear the comments, dude? They're like, you know how Jalen Williams was playing center for OKC earlier in the year?
Yeah.
They're like playing Paul George in that role, and he's like, it's boring, and I don't want to do it. But like, bro, you don't got no choice. Like they don't. You're taller than Gershon Yabusele, so like you kind of have to.
All right. Work our way down this list a little bit more. The Dallas plays again. Najee Marshall, we'll see. There's Grimes. Talk Bogey already.
Get to my boy. Get to our boy. Well, you've joined. You've had, you've made sense of this, and you've joined the bandwagon.
I've become a converter.
You have. You converted. That was the exact wording. Here are Bryce Sensabaugh, John. The last 3 games. Has had a usage rate 29.8% or better. So if you'd like to round up to 30, you can do that. With the guys that are out, he gets a 8.6% usage bump to 30% and averages 1.3 fantasy points per minute. Okay. Those are just sick numbers.
Yeah.
If there's any limitation to Keontae, I don't even know if it matters, truthfully.
Probably doesn't.
Because all the wings are out for Utah. Like, that's what matters more than anything. No Sexton, no Clarkson, no Markkanen, no Collins. That's what matters for Bryce Sensabaugh. So, coming off the illness, 27 minutes right off the jump, big usage rate. He was sick, and he played 27 minutes with a monster usage rate right off the bat. So, It's just all systems go. Just play them.
We did get the ownership update, by the way. And again, we'll have this updated for all of you on Fantasy Alarm after the show, as we usually do. Brunson up to 26% now. He is your highest among the top spend ups on tonight's slate.
Ooh, Casey, we will table that comment for power forward because boy, it's a fun one. You're new here, Casey.
We'll talk about that one in a second. Casey had another comment earlier, I think, as well.
I think it was about
Anthony Edwards. Okay, yeah, we hit the Anthony Edwards one already. All right, so there's the value there. Would you play Cody Williams 42 or any?
Yeah, not with like the Atlanta stuff here. Not with the Atlanta stuff here.
Alrighty.
I would venture to say maybe there is no Caleb Martin. And I know Paul George is coming back. Pretty hopefully coming back. They've done the Eric Gordon thing lately.
Yeah.
But they've also watched what Justin Edwards did last night. If he's starting, and I get it, I would be a little, again, another that would like raise my eyebrow. Because if Nick Nurse starts people, they just play a bunch of minutes, right? Like if there's a start, because we know for a fact Caleb Martin's out, then maybe Edwards would.
Jericho Sims officially in, by the way.
Yeah, he's probably gonna start too.
I mean, listen, again, we talked about it in the Discord, right? You said you were a sucker for good G League stats, and Carlucci threw him in there, and he's coming off of like a 20-8 game. You're like,
yeah, it's in. I'm in. Yeah, I'm in.
And then he comes on the floor, and dude, he just started chucking, and was like, again, the reason that game was as competitive as it was largely because this kid came in and just started making buckets.
It was a 4-point game.
Yeah.
Going into the fourth quarter. Yeah. It's a 4-point game.
Yabu actually had a really good game last night. Edwards and Doughton had a good game. So, yeah, I agree. I don't know if he'd start, but like if everybody was ruled out again.
Well, like it's him or Eric Gordon, right? Because they've been doing the Eric Gordon thing.
I guess so. Yeah.
I'm just saying, like,
would you play him though, even if with Maxey and George back, you'd still play Edwards?
We were talking about playing Eric Gordon if he was starting Eric Gordon gave us a couple 20 fantasy point games in a row.
All right.
I'm not saying you have to. Like I said, eyebrow would go up. That's all I'm saying. There'd be like if I could do the rock eyebrow, I've used this analysis thing before, but I would just, one of those.
Yeah, agreed. If PG is in and Maxey's out, do you think Doughton in the same minutes? I would think so. I mean,
unless Reggie Jackson comes out, hits 3 threes right off the bat, then
yeah. I mean, Jackson just did nothing last night. Doughton, obviously, they were willing to give extra run to. I would think you still have to get some exposure to him. I think you'd have to get some exposure to him.
I think the clear leverage would be you just play Reggie Jackson again. Because Doughton would just be infinitely higher.
Yeah, everybody would just play Doughton after last night. But if Jackson would be starting again, you'd probably have to go there.
If they just run the starting lineup out there, it's the same thing. And then Doughton's 60% and Reggie Jackson's unowned. It's like, well, if I'm playing multiple lineups, I'm gonna have Reggie Jackson shares as well.
Yeah, agreed. Barnes, Harden, or Ball. Anthony, you like Ball tonight? We'd go there. But again, like Brunson. And if Maxey's in, like we kind of have them up over Scotty here. So
I do for the FanDuel players. Yeah, FanDuel has an 11-game slate, John.
Yeah.
Super fun. So fun. It's so awesome. We've kind of talked about this with James Harden before. When he makes shots, he went nuclear the other night because
and we said it was in the cards, so that price was ridiculously low for him.
Yep. So like I would rank them in that question the opposite direction as you listed them. Ball, Harden, Barnes. That would be how I'd rank them.
Okay. All right. Power forward again up top is Giannis. Last night you didn't need Jokic. Not his fault, but Giannis went for 73. So it would have really taken a regular ceiling game anyways for Joker to surpass him there. 33, 11, 13. This game was a blowout, and then it wasn't, and they checked him back in.
Yep. 37 man played 37 minutes.
Yeah, played 37 minutes. I didn't think Giannis was going to come back in this game after the third quarter. And the Kings made a run. De'Aaron Fox made a run and basically put that game back into contention. They checked Giannis in. He got his triple-double and some. Dude, yeah, go. You can play. He went for 74 in this exact matchup the other day. There's no Goga. Like, this is a really good spot for Giannis to take over. So you want to spend up? We won't sit here and tell you no otherwise. What do you do with the rest, I guess, of the power forward position, though? Because there's, again, value plays that can be had. We have someone like a PJ Washington without, Kyrie Irving, which we've talked about liking before. There's Banchero, which we assume at some point we get a minutes bump. What are your thoughts as we hit this power forward position?
Yeah, I mean, on the Banchero front, Coach Jamal Mosley has literally just given us all that information we've needed, right? Before the game, he'll be like, on a limit. Okay, thanks. We usually get the starting lineup 2 hours ahead of time. So we'll know, right? Giannis is straight butt cheeks, man, terrible play tonight. Yep, definitely awful. Definitely a terrible player in basketball. Terrible. Honestly,
MD likes to do this in our chat. Remember, he said SGA never pays off his price tag. He thinks Jokic is always too expensive.
Yep. I was just reading it and moving on. He's terrible. He might as well just play Thanasis tonight.
Sure.
It's not like Giannis had 70 against Orlando already 2 games ago. I like Tatum if I'm playing anyone on Boston. There's obviously a ceiling. Over the last 15 games, nobody's been worse than Toronto defensively, dead last. That is a recipe for Boston to absolutely smash if they want, because they need one of these, they need to string games together. They're win, lose. They're just win, lose, win, lose, win, lose. So I like Tatum in tournaments. No one's going to play him. I don't have a lot of interest in between them. If Paolo were to get his minutes bumped, I think, there'd be some consideration. Triple J, you can always play in a tournament. He has a massive ceiling. I do like the PJ Washington play. I think that would be where I get to. Big usage bump, almost 7% without Kyrie, or just over 6 rather, sorry, without Luka, Lively, and Kyrie, because Derek Lively is listed out as well.
Yeah.
25% usage, over a fantasy point per minute, plays monster minutes. Not scared of the back-to-back because they didn't have to play many minutes last night. He only played 26. So I like PJ, and then we're just dropping down into the value tier where Gershon Yabusele
and not having to deal with Towns tonight now.
Now I'll say this: Yabusele range of outcomes is very, very strange.
For sure,
because he looks like he doesn't want to. It's like the Jokic thing last night, but I'm not calling him Jokic, but Jokic was Jamal has 40. I don't need to shoot. Right? And he's just I'm going to pass. Yabusele's I got all these other guys. I don't need to shoot. But also I don't need to rebound either. So sometimes it's I'm just farting around out here. But he has a 40 bomb recently, and he's played 39 minutes recently. So there's obviously some appeal at 5,500, no Embiid, no Drummond. Even if George and Maxey are in. So I think Yabusele is definitely fine. I like Naz Reid. I don't love Naz Reid with all the value that's opened up.
More people were on Naz Reid before everybody got ruled out than after everybody got ruled out, obviously. So
yeah, it's he's good, but I just think the value opening up has really impacted him. Aaron Gordon being questionable, I think, is really important for Peyton Watson's minutes. I think Peyton Watson could possibly play 30 minutes here if Gordon doesn't. He'd basically been playing 30 minutes nightly without Aaron Gordon. So I think you could pencil that in. Boucher, I like Chris Boucher. We like the player. We like the former G League MVP, but he is a insane person, and it took him until the fourth quarter to score any points. And then, all those numbers you're looking at in the Golden State game came in the fourth quarter. But I think the discussion is Jonathan Isaac here, because just depending on what your perception on Jonathan Isaac's minutes will be changes a lot of the dynamic, because they don't play a back-to-back tomorrow. I checked. There's no back-to-back, right? So you would think based on no back-to-back, they already ruled Goga out. Obviously, they're already shorthanded to begin with, right? Like, no Goga, no Mo Wagner, no Gary Harris, no Jalen Suggs, no Franz Wagner, possibly no KCP. All guys that we've seen play multiple minutes.
Right.
Isaac can play, especially can play both big spots. He could play power forward and he can play center, and he's going to, because whether or not Wendell Carter starts doesn't matter. Like, Jonathan Isaac's going to be your backup 5, or he's going to start at the 5, or Jonathan Isaac's going to be your backup 4 and your backup 5, and you're going to get max minutes like we've gotten. And each time we've gotten those minutes, I mean, just every time we talk about this, if he gets 20 minutes, there's a massive spike in production. There's been a spike in minutes, and that's all we've ever wanted, because you and I, we watched Jonathan Isaac go from 6'7" to 6'11" in an offseason. We watched Jonathan Isaac be like, whoa, that dude could be a difference maker.
When he was drafted out of Florida State, you and I were like so super pumped about what he could do, and then he had that that stretch before he got injured the first time, where he was just like a stocks machine, blocks and steals, and being that stretch wing for Orlando, and they just missed a lot of time with the injuries and the personal stuff that he was going through. So it's exciting to see him start to get back to maybe the player that he was or could be on this team. And you see it, right? 4 straight games with 2 blocks. You're getting rebounds. You saw the scoring ceiling out of him the other night, and you mentioned there's no Goga, like they're down with their bigs here. You could get another 20 plus minutes out of him. And he matches up well in this spot too, when they go to a Bobby Portis lineup and things like that. Like, he matches well against this Milwaukee team. So I'm going to agree with you. He's in the player pool. He's also not a secret. If you look at the ownership, people are interested in putting some Jonathan Isaac in their lineup tonight as well. So it should be fun to see how it all plays out, especially as we get closer. If Achua starts over Sims, do you have more interest there?
Yes.
Maxey in. So we're getting I would imagine George is going to be in as well here.
Well, they were hopeful, John. Honestly, that's the best news we could have gotten. Just like, please,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. All I have is the Maxey news.
There is some big news. Isaiah Hartenstein hurt.
You're not going to miss a week, Hartenstein, huh? Didn't
not
get Paul George news yet, but we got Maxey news. So we'll see. We'll see if anything more comes from Nurse there. So,
I did want to mention, and this is one more value play here, and got to talk about it. $3,000 David Roddy.
Yeah.
Is the highest rostered power forward currently.
Power in here. I'll be playing Roddy, so I expect 11 fantasy points.
Well, let's do this. Let's just do this exercise quick.
Yeah.
What is Atlanta's starting lineup tonight?
I don't know, man.
Dyson Daniels, Clint Capella, Vic Krejci, right?
Yeah.
Those 3 are for sure.
Yeah.
Who are your final 2 starters? Daniels, Krejci, Capella.
It should be Bogey, but they haven't started him. So you could go Roddy.
Matthews, Roddy?
See what? Matthews, yes. I'm going to say Matthews starts because we've seen him start.
Roddy.
And then Roddy, probably.
$3,000.
Unless they have another big, and then they go to Kongu.
We have seen very limited minutes this year.
It's like 5 minutes of them playing.
That they've played together. Like, very limited minutes.
And we talked about this too, because Bowers mentions Yabu or Kongu on FanDuel. We did this on the preview show because we've highlighted this a few times. This Vucevic matchup has lent more minutes to the Capella split this season than Kongu on the floor. Now, all bets are off with the current rotation that they have here, but it would seem like with them even being more shorthanded, that Capella could be in for a season high in minutes just because of the rotation that they have, that they might end up playing with Kongu at the double big.
Do you know how many minutes they've played together this year?
Is it 3?
0.
Okay.
You know who the double big we tried? It was Jalen Smith and Vooch. That was the double big that we were talking about.
Oh, okay. So it was
it was against Milwaukee when they went double big. Last year they played 130 minutes together. This year they have not played a singular minute.
Straight backup 5, right?
Straight split. It has been a straight split.
Who did they have as their backup center last year that they used? Or do they just rotate him to both spots?
Last year, who did they have last year? They did not have Nance.
Did they have Bruno Fernando?
No, this year they had. They did have Bruno Fernando last year.
Is that who their backup was? Maybe?
They did. It was Bruno Fernando. He played 600 minutes.
Okay.
It was Fernando.
So obviously, again, they don't have Fernando. They use Oni as their backup.
They have, but they do have Dominic Barlow.
But you're right. You said they have Barlow, right? So if they went a rotation where Barlow ends up being the backup 5 tonight, they could technically play him next to Capella tonight.
Let's see if they 5:30 report. Mohamed Gaye is still questionable, so we don't even know if he's playing. My starting lineup would be the one that we hypothesized with David Roddy in the starting lineup, and I wrote it in the playbook.
Starting earlier this year. Where's Larry? I wish Larry Nance was alive, man.
Yeah, broken hand. I mean, this
would have been the smash Nance spot.
Would have been the smash Nance spot, and I think that that stretch that you just brought up was exactly what I had brought up in the playbook. At 3K, he did not disappoint once during that stretch.
Nope,
I mean, obviously you want more than 16, but that's what he needs to get more than 5x value, right? He's stone cold min. So I do think that there's merit to getting to David Roddy. Like, I'm not playing 100% if I'm MMEing, but I'm definitely going to be around or above the field at like 30%.
Especially at a position here where
it's not deep.
It's not deep. Like, there's a couple guys we like here, so that definitely works there. All right, center spot. Again, last night, I was sitting there excited. I was already in the money, and I'm like, "Ooh, Joker hasn't even started playing yet." And then you and I start recording, and Joker goes the whole first quarter with 1 shot attempt. And I'm like, "Oh man, this doesn't feel great." And then he still finished with 51 fantasy points. He only played 29 minutes. We thought maybe he was going to get back in this game because Dallas had started to cut the lead.
Nightmare.
And then never happened. And we ended up getting, what did he get finished with? 48 actual, 45 actual from Jamal Murray there.
Yeah, 45.
Yeah. So 45. He got his triple double. It wasn't the greatest night for Nikola Jokic, and now technically back-to-back games, he's, kind of failed to meet value at his price tag. Dun. But he can obviously, he's also got to run a 380s. If you don't want to go there, you can go Giannis, you can go Wemby. Anthony wants to know, is Wemby a must play tonight at the center position?
No, at center is wildly. I think center. This is one of the most interesting centers of the slate of the year because Wemby and Jokic are in great spots. I've told you this last night. I'm going right back to the Jokic well.
There's so much value now. It just makes it easy. Listen, last night, I'll say this, and I showed it in the chat. I played 3 lineups. They were all Giannis Jokic lineups. They were different variations of Giannis Jokic. My best lineup was Giannis, Jokic, and Fox. I had a Giannis, Jokic, and Booker lineup that did really well. When there's 7 3K plays, you can jam 2 big guys into your lineup. So it can definitely go there. On FanDuel, you can play Khalil Ware if Bam is out again. Obviously, he was in the winning lineup on FanDuel or DraftKings the other night too. Big night out of Khalil Ware. So you can spend up. You can play any one of them if you want. It's done. I have no partialness against either of them. I know some of you guys in the chat aren't big fans of Giannis tonight. That's fine. You don't have to play him. You can play Jokic or Wemby if you want to. Not a huge deal.
Yeah. Wemby getting more ownership than Jokic just will.
Well, and we talked about that with the game total. Remember we recorded last night, what did we say? 242.5 was Atlanta, Chicago. That's all the way down to 235.5 now. And that Spurs Grizzlies game's 239.
Hasn't moved. Yeah, hasn't moved at all.
Right. So it's no shock. I think that you'll see a lot of people going to Wemby in that game total. And we've also talked about the Memphis front court, right? Like, I thought Şengün was going to be in a really good spot the other day against Memphis. He had been the game prior. He
was in foul, but he was also in foul. Yeah, he was just in foul.
Yeah, he got into foul trouble. Nothing's really changed for my thoughts on the Memphis analysis there. They don't really have a big that can deal with what Wemby can do. They can play Triple J out there if they want to, but Edey or Huff are not athletic enough to deal with what Wemby can do in stretching the floor. So I do think this is a great spot for Victor Wembanyama. We need the stocks. We need those big block games. Because it's not that he can't give you dominant scoring performances. We've seen it, but we need more of it to pay off an 11-2. We need him to get up there for us.
Yeah, I mean, and like you're factoring in like Jokic, Wemby being the prices that they are and getting so much ownership, but there's like elite value, specifically in Dallas with Gafford.
Gafford's the highest roster, second highest roster player in the slate.
It was, dude. I actually wrote this in the playbook. I could not believe all the ownership went away from Daniel Gafford because it did. It all went to Atlanta guys.
And it's back to him. He's 30%. So
it's back to him because he smashes every time he gets extended. Every time he gets extended, Daniel Gafford.
And this would be a spot for him to have success in against the Pelicans too.
Dude, they benched Messi for Daniel Tice last night. Like if it's Daniel Tice out there, he's chopped liver against Daniel Gafford. That's barbecue chicken for Daniel Gafford.
Yeah.
On the glass. So like I like Daniel Gafford quite a bit. I'm with the field there. I prefer him over the Atlanta stuff. I'm not really chasing a Kongwu because I don't think like of all the things that changed in Atlanta, like his role and Capella's role didn't necessarily change, right? Like those two guys still exist. Like if Capella was out, this would be a different story. But you and I had talked about it last night. They've played Capella over Okongwu in this spot this year. They've extended Capella with the bigger body and Nikola Vucevic on the other side. So I prefer Gafford to both of them. Obviously, no secret there. That's what the field is doing as well. Anthony brought up an interesting point. I do like Kristaps Porzingis in tournaments. I told you that. Two guys I'm playing on Boston moving forward if they're healthy is this guy and Jason Tatum because Porzingis gives you the double-double floor when he's rebounding this way, and then Tatum has the ultimate ceiling because he can do everything on the basketball court. So,
and there's one more center to talk about too, and that's Mark Williams.
Yes, and Mark Williams.
And no
Diabate.
Yeah, no Diabate either. Taj Gibson's your backup center tonight for the Hornets.
Well, let's
maybe.
I'm gonna look at Diabate's still out on the injury report, still listed out in the G League. So
we got 31 minutes as a season high against Chicago. He went for 49 fantasy points in that game. He played his second season high against Phoenix, 29 minutes, went for 52. Nearly doubled in 28 minutes against Detroit and Cleveland here. Again, Beantown in here with values like Gafford, Looney, Precious, and Mark Williams is Joker's a tough play. I think this is where you and I found this out last night too when we were building our lineups. We went more fair and balanced because there's so much value you can make kind of a fair and balanced lineup. But we had comfortably put 4 or 5 guys that had 50 fantasy point upside lately. But if you're playing, there's so much value that you're just almost going to feel like you have to spend up on somebody today to get in a Wemby or get in a Joker because you're going to look at your 5 $3,000 players in your lineup. You're like, what do I do with all this salary? I have to spend up and spend it on somebody. And I think that's why people are going to end up spending it on someone like a Victor Wembanyama. But to Beantown's point, there's so much value at center. It's like, all right, well, center of the spot, you want to do it? Like, where else would you spend it and spend that money if you're not going more fair and balanced? Now, this is obviously a FanDuel play. So what are your thoughts? Do you find yourself going up there? And yes, Richards got traded to the Suns about an hour ago, right before we went live. Nick Richards got traded to the Suns.
And they announced he's going to start right away. So once he's caught up with the playbook and stuff, he's going to start. On FanDuel, I mean, he's 12-9 too.
Yeah.
Like there's no,
and you don't get the double, triple bonuses over there.
Yeah, like that's a site I would be, like it makes it easier to play someone like Victor Wembanyama, right? Because you could play him at power forward and you could still play Daniel Gafford, who's free. So like if you're multi-entering, I don't think it's a bad idea to have an exposure to Jokic, but I obviously like playing someone like Gafford, Okongwu, Wemby, Mark Williams does make more sense on that platform than Jokic. But, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter really if he doesn't have the bonuses over there, if he gives you a 40-point triple-double, which is in the bag, right? Like that's still going to be 80 fantasy points on whatever platform you play him at. So
good.
Yeah, I'd be more likely to play the other centers on FanDuel for sure.
Sure. All right, anything else here for you?
Not at center. I just want to get your take on the updated ownership that has Keaton Wallace the highest rostered player of the slate.
I mean, you kind of said yourself, you thought there was a chance based on the last time they had this lineup, he was the one who started.
Okay, I just wanted to ask. I found that interesting.
Listen, it's an 8:00 game, right? And there's one 7 p.m. game, and that one 7 p.m. game obviously has some of the value that we've kind of talked about on tonight's slate. Now, thankfully, Philly looks like they're ruling in their players, so we're going to have less of that value to consider, but it's whether or not you play the Knicks or not. I don't think we're really playing any of Toronto, Boston, so you can kind of wait and see on Atlanta, right? Maybe plug a Josh Hart or something like that in your lineup, but you're not really stacking, or maybe you are with Paul George, I guess, but like that's one player. You can kind of save your time to figure out what Atlanta is going to do with your lineup construction tonight.
Sure.
Just a way to attack it, people here. That is good for Mark Williams. Yes. Great for Mark Williams. Great for my two best ball teams that have Mark Williams as the center position. All right, let's build. I guess we're gonna go Vic Krejci here. Shooting.
Yeah.
We'll just click the Atlanta button and tell me when to stop clicking.
Roddy,
power forward.
Yeah, Roddy at the power forward spot.
Matthews probably playing.
Yeah. I was, as much as I like kind of crapped on Bogdanovic, like obviously
I told you I think Bogey's gonna be their leading scorer tonight. So
yeah, I mean I'm not like, honestly, like I was just throwing random names out there, just like being stupid, not like because I believed.
I mean, if their starting lineup ends up being like Keaton Wallace, rather, like you'd play four.
Yeah, probably. Because then you're just
playing. At this point, I think we'd end up doing like
Gafford.
Well, we'll see, I guess, right? Or what do you want? Like Jalen Green?
I prefer him in Amen Thompson.
I was gonna play them both. We have so much money. $800 left over. For Atlanta, a Jokic, a Green, a Murphy, a Thompson.
Well, I feel like we want to get Brunson.
You want Brunson? Okay.
Yeah. That's gonna 35% usage rate. I want Jalen Brunson.
Okay. I'll do Brunson then. That's fine. We'll do Brunson here. And that's assuming that Wallace is their starter anyway.
Right.
11-8.
You play Wemby.
Puts us in on Wemby there, $600.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you're in on Thompson. Are you Murphy or Green? I guess
Murphy.
And that's with $600 left over, and you're playing for Atlanta value. So,
and like if you're uncomfortable playing Murphy, you could always go up to like Paul George or something. Like there's a lot of pivots in that tier.
And I don't even really want to play for Atlanta players, but I mean, it's just showing that you can, and ownership is all these guys are 30+% tonight. So, last night, if you played the wrong or the right, I guess, Philly players, you find yourself guaranteed in the money. Yep. I don't think there's a sneaky Atlanta play tonight, though, right? Like Edwards and Doughton were like the sneaky pivots Do you think there's a sneaky pivot on Atlanta to make the ownership there? Like, I don't think there is. Not at least the way we're projecting it. There's 8 guys up over 10.
Yeah, it's
over 20%.
It's the I guess Dyson Daniels is your sneakiest.
Yeah,
right?
you gotta spend $7,100 for him.
Yeah.
Capella's 10%.
Yeah, there's not. They also we were, when we were going into that slate, there was 8, and then they had Nance as 9.
Yeah.
I mean, they have 10 guys, Atlanta, tonight. Like, they called up Plowden, they called up Keaton Wallace. So new update, Bogdanovich is your highest roster player. So, like, nobody knows what to do.
Yeah. I mean, listen, we like Williams and Gafford, but as we just said, and I talked this up before we even built the lineup, you're going to plug so much value on Atlanta, you're just going to have a ton of money left over. And that's just going to force people into building building like a Wemby, or building a Jokic lineup here. So Wemby, Bogey, swap for Jokic, Matthews. Yeah, could do that. Could do that swap. We really like Daniel Gafford.
Yeah,
this is why I started the show off. I know some of you guys weren't in right away. I started the show off saying I was in single entry contest tonight, and Grande's like, you can't play single entry tonight. You have to play an MME because you need to get exposure to all of the different variations of value that is on today's board. So you could do something like this and get a Gafford in your lineup, play a Matthews and a Bogey, play a Wemby and a Jokic, get Mark Williams in a lineup, something like that. You got to get all of your variations. I usually find myself playing the single entries. I'm in the 20 max tonight, just to get my exposure to these guys here. So again, we do appreciate all of you who tune in each and every day. We have our 7-day free trial going on. You can get in our Discord. 7-day free trial gives you access to our Discord, and we talk through plays. Our guy here was in the Discord last night, so it was fun going back and forth waiting on the updates. And Justin Carlucci, shout out to him, had those 76ers pivots. He said in the chat, Edwards and Doughton, great tournament plays, and those guys ended up being the 2 that put you over to the top. We'll be in the Discord again tonight up until roster lock to get you guys ready for tonight's slate. So FANationAlarm.com/win. Use that promo code Let's Go. Gets that first month after your 7-day free trial for less than $20. Or you can scan that QR code right up there on the screen and get taken to that as well. We appreciate you guys tuning in each and every day. Hit that like, that share, that subscribe button. We'll have the preview show out again tonight for tomorrow's slate. We'll be live at 5 tomorrow once again. Good luck, everybody. We'll catch you later.